Hey everybody, it's finally time to talk about the rework of Excalibur. This is a rework. This is the first of, I assume, many since the Frost rework has been released since this one came out, and I just had not gone over it. I think this rework is amazing, and now with this being reworked, and then right after that Frost, which I will cover in another video soon, I think we're setting a trend that is old frames need to be reworked to be actually good, because this rework is what is known as outstanding. Like, nothing short of completely outstanding. Except for this bug where I hold a gun behind my back like a chicken. That's on all frames right now. Okay, so basically, the powers of Excalibur were, you had this radial javelin as his 4, his 2 was... Yeah, his 3 was Super Jump, which is completely useless, and was just terrible, even before we got Pork 2.0 released, so that's gone, and has been replaced with Radial Javelin, which is where it belongs, and it is still a good ability. That is line of sight, but that turns out to be fine when it is a 3. His 2, which is an outstanding crowd control, like, defensive mechanism that he has, that is different from just giving him a shield or something. And then Slash Dash was changed to be directional, work on enemies in the air and not just go in a straight line, and target enemies by slashing them, and then you're immune to health damage whenever you're slash dashing. So that's like the basic breakdown of like what has changed and been moved. But then we have Exalted Blade, which, similar to how Valkyr works, you stance in to your Exalted Blade, and also similar to how Valkyr works, it takes on some of the mods and stats from your current melee weapon to be like amplified into this Exalted Blade, but also has the benefit of not being short range, in that it is a wave that you shoot out of your sword when you swing it. So it's good for like killing groups. If the things go through walls, they can do a lot of stuff that is like very, very useful, and it does very, very high damage whenever you pair it with a melee weapon that synergizes well with what benefits Exalted Blade. And it also runs on just a raw, like, channeling, and so you don't need to build duration for it. And then it also, even on top of that, has the added benefit of, even when you're attacking, you're blocking from the front. So you can still be shot in the back, but that adds into needing to be more careful, especially when doing high-level stuff. And unless you're channeling, you do not block 100% of the damage, I don't think. Definitely seems like I get shot while blocking, but we'll test that a little bit. Actually, I'm going to test that a little bit. I need to get rid of Carrier. So I just want to show off a little bit of what Excal is like now. And it's worth saying, also, I should say the build, or show the build that I'm using. This is the current build that I'm using. I'm actually going to swap one out because I'm going solo. I have not used any Forma. This is Excalibur Prime, though. So this has D and 2V polarities. Regular Excalibur. Regular Excalibur has a D and 1V polarity, so to get the build that I'm using on him, on Excal Prime, you would need 1 Forma, and I would say that to completely optimize the build, you would need 2 Formas, which I will explain when I swap back. So, you want this other V polarity for like your Prime continuity, because having some duration benefits you greatly, via your blind lasting longer. And then up here, whenever you would get this slot, which actually I have the thing, whenever you get that slot, you would want to Forma your polarity slot to be the energy siphon polarity, which also works with corrosive projection, so that you could slot in a mod like Mobilize to make yourself faster and able to get around the map more, just because that is a benefit to all frames, and the faster you're moving, the harder it is for enemies to shoot you, so it ends up being a great benefit. Yeah, but other than that, I think this, overall, over like a lot of playing, I think this is the best build that I've used so far, because you're at max efficiency, which means you can stay in your 4 for a long, long time. Rage, so when you do get damaged, you get the energy back from it, because you will get damaged because you are sword fighting guys, essentially, or you're going to be like standing in front of large groups, things like that. Eventually you're going to get shot, and it would be nice for it to benefit you. Even though you don't have such a huge health pool, Rage benefits with the melee weapon build that I'll be showing. Flow for an even longer 4 in the event that you get kind of energy. What's the term I'm looking for? In case you don't get enough energy. Starved. Starved is the term I'm looking for. A little bit of range, because you want just a little bit extra range so your blind hits more enemies. Because when enemies are blinded, they take more melee damage, including the damage from your waves, which ends up being very, very good. And then you want a little bit more strength, because it'll make your 4 more powerful, which is just obviously good. And then you have like rage plus quick thinking, so that you get the energy from your rage in order to fill up your energy bar, and then when you get to your energy is also health. So you have like a stopping point where it's like, oh, I just got hit with a sniper rifle round, I have 2 health, I need to channel and get my energy back with Life Strike, which would go on I would suggest it on absolutely any melee weapon with Excal. Now, the way that I use this is that whenever I'm in my 4, I only channel if I need to get health back. I'm certain that there is maybe some way to do it where you would always be channeling, but this is the build that has generally worked out best for me. I generally use the Typido just because of its nice attack speed and the decent amount of damage that it can put out. Combine that with the critical chance, and just like regular use of the Typido as a weapon is fine. Like if you're needing to kill a nullifier in their bubble, things like that. And then other weapons that I would suggest with this, the Dragon Nikana works really well. I mean, you can do it with pretty much any weapon that is decently fast and hits kind of hard. Like, I mean, even the Jack Tag, I'd say, is like viable. The Prismaskana, like with also I should mention Excalibur's passive. His passive is that you get a 10% bonus to both the speed and damage of single swords, which includes the Dragon Nikana and the Docker Prime and like any single sword. Not daggers, swords only. Not the Galatine, that's a heavy weapon. Swords, like the Jaw Sword, like the Prismaskana, the regular Skana, and just like general, like an actual sword, not long swords, no grams, not stuff like that. But that is what Excal's passive is. But that's enough going on about the build. I find that your primary and secondary, generally you want something to combat things that are the weaknesses of Excal, which generally are pretty much just nullifiers or like other enemies that you can't get close to. But it's pretty much just nullifiers are the enemy that Excal has a rough time with, and some bosses. So you would want to build your primary secondary for killing whatever specific boss you're on, or specifically killing nullifiers. I choose the Hikau Prime currently whenever I need to kill nullifiers. And I do that specifically because I have concealed explosives, which goes through nullifier bubbles and pretty much instantly kills them, like, consistently for a lot of levels. So that's the reason I choose that, is because it's a very anti-nullifier. But that is about enough of that. Let's get into a mission. Not Pluto, that's Corpus. That's too easy. Let's do... which really is the highest level Garnier one? Actually, don't know. Is it Sarah's? Really? That doesn't seem right. Well, I guess it must be. Let's do not interception, not assassination, not defense. Do something decently fast, but not too fast. Exterminate's fine, I guess. Exterminate's good for showing how well a guy can kill things. Also, this is on public. That's no good. Solo is fine. Yeah, since this rework, there was a time where I would have considered this overpowered, and that was previous to update 17. I was considering this in the margin of being like basically just fat busted, but with the way that it is now, where like you're not blocking all of the damage from the front, I think that it is perfectly fine, and it is where it should be, because I'm pretty sure you only block a portion of the damage. Or I'll let this guy notice me. Hey, hey, bud. Hey, you're a Grineer, right? Yeah, shoot me. Yeah, you don't block all the damage from the front. So I think this is actually, like, balanced itself out now. Also, it's worth noting that you can just turn that on and off at will, so you can just take it out whenever you need it. Super useful in that respect. And before, it was, like, fat busted, no enemies could, like, really kill you as long as you played a little bit smart. Now it's in a place where you still have to position yourself well and can't just eat bullets because you're looking at some enemies. So I think it's in a place where it's like you're forced. You're very, very powerful, but you're forced to play well to be that powerful, which is a good, like, middle ground. Also, I get the feeling this is going to be pretty simple. Yeah, the new slash dash goes between a bunch of enemies. It's very effective, very good at killing dudes. And then you've got blinding, which even hit that guy over there. His 3 is still the same. I think his 3 is, like, probably his most lackluster ability now, and that used to be his ultimate, which really shows the kind of, like, buff that this was and, like, how much better it makes Excal as, like, a frame. Also, channeling to restore all of my health. With this build, it only takes one channeled strike to give me all of my health back, which generally works very well. And actually, whenever, like, these, like, slash procs are on you, you're actually constantly regenerating energy. So it ends up a lot of the time actually benefiting you more than it harms you. And, like, because you're inevitably going to take damage, I think that this is probably the... Fell off the edge. That's no good. How about I blind everyone? Oh, also your 2, whenever you blind people, it sets them up for finishers, which is very, very helpful, and it makes it so you can do a lot of damage through armor even. So even when enemies scale up very, very high, you're still, like, able to deal with it, at least on some level. Even while solo, which ends up being a huge benefit of being Excalibur, especially if you can't, like, form a group that can get, like, corrosive projection together for a team that wants to go to a very, very high level of mission. And, like, as you can see, like these enemies pose no threat to, like, an Excalibur built this way. Like, without Life Strike, you would eventually die. So Life Strike, I would say, is probably a required mod to do some, like, truly endgame things. But, like, aside from that, like, these enemies don't really stand much of a chance, and I'm not even using Excalibur to, like, the fullest extent of his abilities. Like, those, like, 1,000 damage, like, plus slashes that I was doing, that's all without using this. And that's 15k. Like, that was instant kill. Like, whenever you start, like, mixing in, like, blinds and such into this, your damage gets really, really high. And that costs you in energy. But, like, with this build, generally, if you're killing enough enemies, you're able to, like, keep your energy high enough to just continually keep going. And it is just really nice. Also, because I have not done one more forma on him, because I didn't, like, want to have to re-level him, I wanted to make this video, you actually, like, if you were to do all those forma and have mobilize on him, you would be, like, impossibly fast. And, like, you can create the waves in midair. And, like, your synergy with certain frames gets incredibly, incredibly high. Like, your waves go through Frost Bubble. So you could actually, like, put down bubbles in, like, strategic locations where you slow down a bunch of enemies and then, like, dice them all up. If Volt buffs you, you become just a torrent that, like, cannot be stopped of just, like, endless slashes. And, like, Valkyr, similarly to Volt, using that Warcry buff, maybe slightly less effective, but still very, very good. And you're good at being, like, the front man for your team. You're good at killing guys, like, a Trinity supporting you. Like, a Trinity supporting Excalibur in the way that he is now basically means that, like, you've got everything that you really need. Like, an Excal that's doing it correctly, it's so hard to take them down, like, while they have, like, even limited support, which is good. And I think that along with this rework, like, in addition to like this endgameness of Excalibur just being very, very like amazing, like wonderful to play, but like still like with danger, and like it makes you think. Like it's not the way that he was a lot of patches ago. Like there was the point before his nerf where he was being used on Draco to like super farm, because you could just radial javelin and just like go nuts with it and just go ham, and like that was the way to do it, but you didn't really have to think about anything. You were just hitting 4 over and over and over. With the way it is now, it's actually engaging to play, and you still have like the danger where in high level content you could fuck up and you'll die. Like it'll happen. So like while you're playing, it's less of like, oh, I'm farming, I'm gonna hit 4 a lot. It's like an actual like engagement with it. So I think that like whenever they decided to rework Excalibur, I personally was like very excited when they started coming out with details about it, because it's just so fun to play. And like the one thing, and the reason that it has taken so long for this video to come out, is that around the time that I was thinking about making this video, to go, oh well, Excalibur is the only frame that anyone should play in the game because he's God mode OP right now, which is when he was blocking 100% damage from the front. They were talking about making changes to stamina and removing it from the game, and I was like, well, if they do that, they're going to have to change blocking and how it works. So I sort of guessed, but like it was like my gut feeling that he would somehow be changed along with that change to blocking, and I was correct. And I think that it balanced him out to the point where he's still very, very good, but he's not just a god like on the battlefield. But I will say that I think Excalibur is an amazing addition to any team. Like any mission, like you add in like the new parkour, and you add in his rework, and then you look at like all of the mission types in the game: interception, defense, survival, like captures, like extermination, everything. He is above average in all of those, and is like a welcome addition to any team, because he's literally like what I think they originally set out to do, and what I think they accomplished whenever Warframe first launched, where Excalibur was the balance of all like good aspects. He has his 2, which is above average crowd control. It's not the best in the game, I'd say, but it's above, it's like good. It's like solid. It works. It does what it needs to do. His 3 is a trash mob AoE clear out. It's not the best one in the game. I think Saren probably holds that right now, almost certainly. But it does its job, and it kills a lot of like infested, low level enemies. It does its job very, very well when you're at low levels. Like those enemies can't take that kind of damage at those like lower levels. So it's good in the leveling process once you get Radial Javelin. His 4 is that endgame ability that scales with a weapon, that scales to very high levels, and at the same time synergizes with your 2 to give you a lot of damage, and to make it so that your abilities keep working into like the very late endgame. I've played as Excalibur all the way up to enemies being like level 180 to 200. And it just works. Like Excalibur is a frame now that can hold his own, and with proper modding, like with the life strike so that he has like sustainability and doing like the most you can in order to get the most out of like what his abilities already do for you. Like he's just a frame that is good all around. Also, I didn't really talk about what his 1 kind of brings to the table. His 1 is mobility, while at the same time being a good single target damage skill. So I'd say it's one of the best ones, I think, early on, because it also introduces you to an ability that some frames have, which is like the near invincibility during a skill. Like for example, say Hydroid with his, I think it's called Undertow, where he transforms into a pool of water. He's invincible during that. Excalibur is essentially invincible during slash dash. And in the early game, and whenever I was like leveling Excalibur initially, you were completely invincible during slash dash, because that was the old way it was, and that was invaluable for like sliding into napalm attacks, because they can't hurt you. You just blow right through them, and then you kill the napalm with your 1. And, like, doing more complicated maneuvers and, like, learning how to get in on enemies and kill them up close. So, like, at this point, I think, interestingly, I used to agree with a lot of people, like, Loki is the master race frame. He's the one that can do all the missions and just be outstanding at all of them. And I still think that's true. But now, because of the way that Excal has been reworked, him and Loki are like the 2 frames that you can throw into anything in this entire game. And I mean anything, like the raid, Excal, of course. Hello, Excal. Welcome to the raid. Like, Loki is a staple of the raid, and I think that Excal also fits in there really well with his ability to help the team with his radial blind also, like, in the way that Loki helps with, like, radial disarm and irradiation. It's very similar to how those 2 things help teams. So overall, like, this rework on Excal, I think it does everything it needs to do to make Excal really, really fun and engaging and viable, which, like, those are the 3 marks that need to really be hit for everyone to be able to be happy with Excal. Also, on, like, the very final note of what I would like to say about Excalibur, now with this rework, I think that he's back to being the best starter frame. I'm not saying that I think Volt is a bad choice now. I'm saying that I think between the 3 of them, before the rework, I think Volt took the cake no problem. It was no big deal for it to be like, absolutely, Volt's the one. Now, because Excalibur also got a buff to his armor, which is important, it makes him tougher to take down in the early game. And on top of that, his abilities are better than they, like, were. So I think Excalibur and Volt at the beginning of the game are roughly even choices, and Excalibur goes farther in the late game than Volt does. So Excalibur would be a frame that you would want to keep around for much, much longer, because I think Volt is a frame that you could easily dump off if you're not using him for his, like, speed and utility in melee, because, like, Volt's ultimate is not very good. His 1 doesn't super help him out a lot, except for some, like, general stunning, and, like, his 3 is not really for defense objectives, it's more for, like, killing enemies, and, like, I think, like, the trade-offs, like, later on, like, Excal ends up, like, in a, like, at the beginning, like, let's say it's a tie between Excal and Volt, and they're in a race, not a foot race. They're both going, and then there's a point called Corrupted Mods, where Volt slows down and Excalibur speeds up. And, like, that's kind of how it is, like, from the starter frames. Also, I'm not including Mag in this, because Mag is sitting at the, like, the starting line, and then she sees that the other 2 are up where the Corrupted Mods are, and then she runs up, and then she stops at Corrupted Mods. And, like, that is what she is. Like, she's not terrible, but I don't think she even comes close to being able to compete with Volt or Excal in terms of what she does. So, that has been what I think of Excal. If you guys want to see me play as Excal more, I have done some previous videos that were actually pre-Update 17, so they're a little bit older, of me doing some, like, endless survivals and stuff with Excal. And if you guys want me to, I could just take an entire day and just play tons of missions and, like, just do, like, requests or something on stream or in a just random video for you guys. If you want to see that kind of stuff, let me know in the comments. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.